Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sporting Fan Podcast. Today I'm going to be speaking about the FIFA Women's World Cup, which, admittedly, I'm not the biggest soccer fan, but I'm going to talk about it because it's been spoken about quite a lot. And I want to talk about the difference between Australia and the US, and that's because I think the way both teams have gone about it is quite different because and how they're respected in each other's countries. Because in Australia, I'm going to be the first one to admit, and I think a lot of people say this for both the men's and the women's team. Not many Australians really care outside the World Cup. But when it comes World Cup, they really support and get behind their team. They want to see Australia do well, right? And it's been shown in this World Cup. This is the most attended World Cup. It's been the most highly rated World Cup. And everything for the women's game. So this is a most highly rated and most highly attended women's World Cup in soccer in history. They for example, the last World Cup, the average crowd attendance was 21,000. This World Cup has been over 28,000, and the Matildas have done very well. It's the first time that they've ever made the semi-finals. Australia has never made the semi-finals either in the men's World Cup or the women's World Cup, and this time they've done it. Comparatively, the reigning two-time champions, US, they got knocked out in the round of 16. And they have not been supported by the American public as well. I think there's more that they got knocked out. The backlash has been quite heavy, and people say, "Well, why is that?" I think they're being treated too harshly. I think the reason why the Australians have been respected is that they've tried to really show a positive message to their team. They try to unite the country. Say we want to really get everyone behind us. Get behind us. We're going to take this as far as we can. And they've tried to do a really positive message, whereas the Americans were like, they seem to be very me orientated. They seem to be very, we're underpaid, we're this, and then it's very, we're so hard done by. Whereas the Australian women's team is the complete they're not, we're so hard done by. They're trying to really unite the country, and I think that's where the main difference is. Why, even if the Matildas get beaten in the semi-final, like they obviously want to beat the English and make the final. But even if they didn't make the final, they've been very uniting in this World Cup. A lot of people have really got behind them and been really proud of them, and I think the biggest thing for them is that, and this is, this is what something that I've said in my previous podcast with women's sport. They very much have this is going to come out wrong. I know people are not going to like me saying this, but they've kind of like stayed in their lane kind of thing. They've said, we realize that, we're a growing sport. We want to, and the Australians have realised, okay, it's better to get people behind us rather than and that's the best way to grow the sport, right? They realize that this is a way where we're going to get corporate money. This is a way where that we're going to get. This is how we're going to grow the game here because we need the corporate money. And by unifying people behind us, they realize, well, we can. That's the way we're going to get professional, become fully professional, get paid well, and make a good salary. Whereas the Americans go, oh, we just deserve it because we're playing for the national team. And it's like, well, in theory, that's great, but so is communism. Like, it's all good and well to say everyone should get paid the same. Everyone's ability is the same. Until you get beaten 5-2 by a Dallas under-15s team. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the reigning champions. You get beaten 5-2 by 5-2, and then that's where people have come up. They're like, and the other thing is, they brought in something like $3.5 or $4 million in revenue in this World Cup. Yet they got paid $7 million. Now, I can tell you that someone that works in insolvency, you keep doing that after a while, you're going to go broke, right? And it's all good and well saying, oh yeah, quality, but it's not a uniting concept to get behind. Whereas this, that's where the Matildas have been so much better in this World Cup because they've said, get behind us, we're representing the country. How great is it that we've got a major international event on our shores, get behind us, and, we'll, if you get behind us, we'll put a show on for you, and let's take it all the way. And people have done that. People have got behind the Australians have really got behind this team like they've never got before, and that's why I think the players are feeding off that. And no matter what happens in this semi-final against England, people are going to be proud of them. Whereas the Americans, they came across as entitled, and that that's where they've really gone. That's where, and I can say I've really looked at some of the backlash, not in depth, but I've seen enough of it to see. I was like, oh, this is getting kind of ugly here, and where people have just savaged them, and I think rightfully so. Like, if they just said, we want to grow, can more people support us, and really show them what they've got, then a lot of people would be happy with that, and people would be celebrating them, saying, "Oh, you won 2 straight World Cups. How fantastic is that? Oh, it's a bit of a shame about this World Cup." And yes, there would still be a backlash after an early exit, but people wouldn't be as hard on them as what they are now, because currently they're getting all negative press, so they're not going to get corporate dollars, which means they're not going to get the corporate dollars that they want. Whereas the Matildas have done a uniting message, and they're going to end up getting corporate dollars. Yes, obviously America's got a lot bigger market. They're a lot wealthier nation. They're able to pay their sports stars a hell of a lot more than what the Australians are. But the fact of the matter is, people are not going to sponsor a sporting team that is just getting negative press. People don't like them. People, especially in America loves winners. And if they're seen as losers, they're not going to get the corporate dollars. And national teams should be able to command the most amount of dollars, and especially in America. And if they did that, that's what, instead of bitching and complaining, saying how hard done by they are, if they did what the Australians are doing, they would be getting paid. They would be the highest paid sports stars, female sports stars, anywhere in the world, in any sport, by a country mile. But, the Americans really need I think they just need a little bit. They need to take a page out of Australia's book and to see how they can unite the country. Because they're obviously phenomenal athletes. So you don't win 2 World Cups in a row unless you're a great team. And, but they just don't. I don't think they've handled this too well. Coming off laughing after losing getting knocked out in the round of 16, and saying, "Oh, it's dark comedy." A lot of people don't see it as that. The Matildas, if they got knocked out in the round of 16, people would have just said, "You've made Australia proud. You've been successful, and how great it is." And it's such a great story that the Australians have done. They've really taken it on, and they've been so solid, and I think that's where we need to. Americans can take a note out of our book, and I think going forward, that's what the Americans need to do. Instead of putting stupid ads out saying, essentially that we've already won the World Cup before, even before they have kicked the ball, it comes across as arrogant, and I think they just need to really think long and hard about what they do going forward. As for the World Cup itself, commercial success, no end. Highest ratings, highest crowd attendance. It's just been a phenomenal World Cup. It's probably been one of the best World Cups I would actually say it is the best World Cup for women, simply because it's just got so many viewers watching and people are loving it. And I think that Football Australia really need to capitalise on this, because I don't think they really took enough of an opportunity from the round of 16 from the Socceroos last year. They didn't really capitalise on that. I think this is something that they can really capitalise on for both the men and the women's game. Obviously, this is going to be hell of a lot more for the women's game, simply because it is a Women's World Cup. But I think this could be a turning point for soccer. They need to get it out of just a World Cup. Australians account owning around the World Cup. If they can do that after this, I think that it will encourage. Personally, I think it's going to be pretty hard to get a men's World Cup here, but this could be a stepping stone for a lot of the women's players to go overseas, and it really inspires the players to the next generation, because now they've got a team to really look up to, and the Football Australia really need to now that they can they've seen that it rates, they need to speak to broadcasters and make sure it are not all their games, their international games, the Matildas, get on TV. If they watch the women's A-League competition, get more on free to wear, and so more people are looking at it, and I think that will really encourage the women. I think that will doing that. That will really encourage the women's game to grow into the future, because I think because at the moment they're a little bit like Rugby Australia, where they're just expecting people to come to them. If they really go out and push this now. I think that they can get momentum and really push it to the world, and especially in the women's game. The men's game is obviously going to be a little bit harder, considering there's still very much a rugby league, rugby union. Well, not so much rugby union, but AFL culture here. If they can get it, at least in the women's game, I reckon that will also inspire the men to really push it as well. And they only can they'll only better each other, really. And and that's when it'll be good to see that the women's game, they get pro athlete, they can become professional athletes. They can have a proper career instead of, having to have a second job. How long I think this is going to happen? I don't know. Do I think it can happen? Yes, of course I think it can happen. It's just, you need people that know. I think you just can't have you need someone that's both a head of the sport, so in this case soccer, but you also need someone in the corporate side to bring in the corporate dollars, and they really need to filter that down. And I think this could be a turning point, and I really hope they do. And I really hope the Matildas go on with it and beat the English, because there's nothing better than it beating the English. And yeah, I think that it's only onwards and upwards here. It would be great to have another World Cup here to watch it again. So obviously, Australia is a sporting mad country, so it's just showing that if it comes here, people will come and watch. So, definitely, fingers crossed Australia does well, and yeah, I'm interested to hear what you think of this World Cup. Let me know if you've enjoyed it, you watched any games, who's been your standout, what's your low light. Yeah, and until next time, thank you for listening.